Hello and welcome to Wellness Shots with Jewel. It is my pleasure to have with us today well-known doctor, Dr. Fuhrman. Welcome, Dr. Fuhrman.
Thank you. Looking forward to talking to you today.
Yes, our viewers are so looking forward to hear what you have to say. And I have a list of questions that I probably not going to be able to go through them all, but would like to address at least some. So first of all, I want to ask you, how are you doing during this pandemic?
Well, I'm doing fine. It's just, I think healthy people will be doing fine. It's just, of course, it's a little bit tragic and sad for the people who are not in great health who are going to be hurt by this. But it's, obviously my message right now is that now more than ever before, people have to really take care of their health, eat right, get enough sleep, and do all the right things with making sure our immune system is capable of protecting ourselves from harm from this virus that's now epidemic.
What is your take on the vitamins, especially during these times? People who are in a good health, should they add some supplements?
Well, most people are not in good health. I mean, only 2.4% of Americans are of a normal weight because they eat healthfully. That means that about 89% have a BMI above 23, which is the maximum height of a healthy BMI is 23. United States authorities classify the overweight as with a BMI above 25, so they say 75% of people are overweight, but it's really about 89% of people are overweight. And fat on the body suppresses the immune system. It leaks and spews out cytokines and lipokines and makes your inflammatory reactivity heightened against viruses. So what I'm saying right now, because Americans' poor diet, lack of obviously of vegetables and beans and mushrooms and onions, lack of healthy phytonutrients and antioxidants, and being overweight, they're at high risk. Now, the people that are of normal weight, most of those in America are people who have normal weight, are alcoholics, or people who have depression or smoke cigarettes. Also, some people have autoimmune conditions and digestive disorders. That's why they're a normal weight. What I'm saying right now is that the American diet is so toxic and so dangerous that everybody who eats it gets sick or becomes overweight. And the vast population has placed themselves, because they're eating a diet that makes them prone to cancer, they've placed themselves at high risk.
You are breaking
about supplements.
Up.
Now.
No, you're good. You're good now.
Okay.
You were just breaking up. So back to the supplements. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we're talking about supplements, and I'm just making sure that we put the context here that if people are eating very poorly, like they are, then supplements may add some element of benefit, but it's not going to do much because there are too many thousands of phytochemicals present in natural foods for the body's immune system that's necessary for normal immune function. So unless you're eating your G-bombs, GBOMBS, which are identified as the foods with the most powerful protection against cancer and also the most powerful protection against normalizing immune function to fight against viral replication and viral invasion. And those foods, of course, are greens, particularly green cruciferous vegetable, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. And every one of those foods has dramatic protection. So the most powerful thing people can do is eat right. Now, as you make your diet more plant-based, there are certain nutrients that are not optimized on a vegan or plant-based diet. And that's because of some of those nutrients found in seafood or animal products, particularly zinc. 50 to 70% in animal products, we think. But in any case, extra zinc is probably important to maximize immune function. If you're already eating a lot of meat and seafood, then your diet is too high in animal protein and it's not getting the full phytochemicals.
You're breaking up. Okay.
Oh. Sorry.
No problem.
in any case, what I'm saying right now is that when you're eating a more conventional diet, which is low in produce, the vitamins people are taking, like folate, folic acid, is synthetic, made from petroleum. It doesn't have the same effect of real folate. And taking beta carotene or some different individual supplements doesn't give you the full symphony of carotenoids we need for optimal immune function. What I'm saying right now is we can't supplement a person into great health. They have to eat the right wide variety of high nutrient foods. But once you're eating a wide variety of high nutrient foods, and then the scientific literature seems to indicate that we enhance lifespan by cutting animal products back to smaller and smaller amounts. And a lot of people following plant-based diets, like myself, for example, then I utilize, make sure I have enough vitamin D to keep my levels between 30 and 50, which is usually between 1,000 and 2,000 a day. So most people, we give about 2,000 of vitamin D a day, because they're not, and they're avoiding the skin for aging the skin and skin cancer. So we're just, whether you're getting it from sun or whether you're getting it from a supplement, we want to make sure we have at least 30, we want at least our blood level of 25 hydroxy vitamin D to be at least 30. And then so it's vitamin D, B12, because unless you're eating animal products regularly, your B12 could be low. Zinc we talked about, because zinc, a little extra zinc has been shown to reduce the risk of infectious pneumonia and death in the elderly from pneumonia. And zinc absorption goes down with aging. It's not something you can measure good in the bloodstream. And a plant-based diet gives less zinc due to decreased zinc absorption. So taking some extra zinc, 10, 15 milligrams of extra zinc a day is probably beneficial. We want to make sure people get about 150 micrograms of iodine a day, which if you're eating seafood or seaweed, you wouldn't need to take. The people who were getting the iodinated salt out of the diet, so we're making sure people have enough iodine. K2 may be a benefit, not that available from food, but and DHA and EPA are also commonly known as fish oil, but we use a vegan source of EPA and DHA for those not eating fish regularly to make sure we don't shrink the brain with aging, because the studies that look at omega-3 index show that all the studies that look at this number show that as people's age, if their index number is too low, they have cognitive impairment or brain shrinkage going on in proportion to the lowness of that score due to DHA inadequacy, which can happen on plant-based or vegan diets. So yes, we're using supplements conservatively. And then the question is there anything additional we could take that could strengthen our immune system over and above a great diet? And maybe extra mushroom extracts we use, the wide variety of mushroom extracts, because we're not eating a wide variety of mushrooms in our diet. It's advisable to eat as much variety of mushrooms as you can, and things like a little green tea or a little turmeric or astragalus, or, there's some things that we can use to, stabilize the immune system. And with all these nutrients from these herbs or supplements, but mostly from the diet, we can maximize our immune function so that our body is protected against the viral replication and the viral invasion that can cause problems and even death. What I'm saying right now is that this type of virus, COVID-19 virus, doesn't stand a chance to cause damage in a real healthy person. It can only affect the unhealthy. And now's the time to get healthy as quick as we can. And the chance of a virus hurting you depends on the size of the virus load that you're exposed to. And we're all reducing our chance of being exposed to a high virus load and touching our faces. We're being aware of that today. If we touch a surface, we're either wearing gloves. We're not going to touch our gloved fingers to our face, or we're going to wash our hands, or we're not going to touch our face. So we're keeping our distance from people who are coughing or sneezing or who are sick. So we're keeping our chance of getting a high viral load relatively low. So it's the size of the viral load, the virulence of that particular virus, and the ability to be contagious or float in the air. And this virus is not that, you can't get a large load and somebody sneezes or coughs right in your face if you're keeping your distance. Whether you wear a mask or not, if you're far enough away and the person's not sick and coughing or sneezing or vomiting at you, you're not going to get a high viral load. So your people are relatively safe. And so the third and most important thing, the one that we also have the most control over, is the resistance of the host, and that's us. and our resistance is based on how healthy we eat, basically, and keeping ourselves slim, not overeating, and getting enough sleep. And the sleep we want to get is not sleep while we're digesting food. We want to eat our diet, eat our dinner early enough so we go to bed at night on an empty stomach, so we get a full 7 to 8 hours of sleep while we're not digesting, but while we're just sleeping without digesting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You mentioned the mushrooms, and one of the questions I have on my list is the person wants to know if the mushrooms can be eaten marinated but not cooked. And there are so many raw foods recipes that include raw mushrooms. Is it safe?
I don't recommend that because in the common mushrooms like white button mushrooms and portobellos and cremini, they're high in a mild carcinogen called agarotine that blows off with a little bit of cooking. Even a minute of walking or steaming or blanching will blow off the agarotine and not lose the beneficial effects of the mushrooms. And there's some other, sometimes there can be contaminants or bacteria in mushrooms themselves that are living in the it's a fungus. It's not even a plant. It's not even a vegetable. So it's a fungus. But so it's better to lightly cook it than to eat it raw. I'm not sure how much agarotine is removed in marinating, and maybe not at all. I really don't have enough information on that. So I think it's wise to cook the vast majority of our mushroom intake, and moderately cook it. But we use mushrooms in soups, in stews, in chilies, in sauces, and so it has a delicious flavor to good food. So I'm not suggesting that people stay on an all raw food diet. I want them to eat both raw foods and cooked food, because the two raw foods with the most longevity promoting effects and the beneficial effect at promoting a thickening of the biofilm are raw green vegetables, especially raw cruciferous vegetables, and raw onion and scallion. And the two cooked foods are beans and mushrooms. And beans too, azuki beans, lentils, red kidney beans, soybeans, they really have to be cooked, and cooked well to be, and it's an important adjunct to the diet to make people live longer. What I'm saying right now, as you narrow the choice of foods with these fad diets, you reduce lifespan. In other words, we want a wide variety of plant foods. For example, we look at populations and we see that vegetables show the most protection against cancer. The WHEAL study, the Women's Healthy Eating and Living study, showed that women who ate the most green vegetables had the lowest risk of breast cancer recurrence over that 10-year period. But eating fruits and vegetables showed more protection than just vegetables alone. When we look at studies that adding beans versus people not eating beans adds more protection, adding nuts and seeds to the diet adds more protection, we know that cardiovascular deaths can be increased by almost 40% by people not eating nuts and seeds as a source of fat. And it increases cancer mortality and overall death rate from people cutting their fat down too low and taking out the nuts and seeds. When you take out the fruit, when you take out anything you kind of remove from the diet, you're not decreasing the risk. So when you go onto a raw food diet and you're removing, cooked beans and some of these cooked vegetables from your diet, you're not doing yourself a favor. You're narrowing your choice of foods. That's why some of these low-fat vegan diets, like a rice-based or a potato diet, where they're not eating enough variety of foods, including beans and nuts and greens, they're not maximizing the opportunity for human lifespan enhancing and immune system protection.
Right. So what is your view on, and knowledge, of course, on the oils and how much fat we need to have in a day? And there were two questions I got from my people asking about your point of view on extra virgin olive oil and also coconut oil.
Well, I'm very, very clear about this, that oil is fattening, and every type of oil contains the same amount of calories, and that's 120 calories per tablespoon. And because the oil is a processed food that's been separated from the fibers and other food matrix that the food comes in, it's absorbed very rapidly into the bloodstream. And when it's absorbed so rapidly in the bloodstream, it becomes an appetite stimulant, and it becomes a dopamine stimulant in the brain, which makes people more crave to eat more food and eventually over time become more dopamine insensitive and want to eat a higher caloric diet. What I'm saying right now, that the caloric content of oil and how fast it enters the bloodstream and how fast the body has to store it away as fat means it halts fat storage and leads to increased turning up our apostat. And it makes people become overweight. If you were working out, if you were in the olden days, if you're working in a plow with an ox and a metal plow 8 hours a day in the field, you know, and you're burning 4,000 calories a day, adding an extra 300 to 400 calories a day, like most people do from the oil, maybe wouldn't be as significant. But in today's society, when everybody has excess fat on the body, oil becomes a major factor interfering with their ability to lose weight. And since the extra fat causes cancer, because fat on the body makes you insulin resistant, and therefore raises your glucose, circulating glucose, and raises your insulin levels. Fat on the body is naturally hypoxic tissue that spews out reactive oxygen species, activating aromatase, which makes you produce more estrogen, which increases the risk of breast and prostate cancer. And fat on the body is immunosuppressive and also leads to a chronic inflammatory state, which then can cause cytokine storm when we have a virus replicate in your system. What I'm saying right now is that olive oil causes death. I'm saying right now that if olive oil is keeping you fat, then it's increasing your risk of death. A walnut's not the same thing as walnut oil. They're biologically different. A sesame seed is not the same thing as sesame oil. An olive is not the same thing as olive oil. When you take the whole sesame seed or whole walnut, you absorb the calories at maybe 1 or 2 calories a minute, not at 70, not at 50 calories a minute. And because the calories are absorbed slowly, they can preferentially burn for energy as they're being absorbed and not stored as fat. And they're not shutting down the utilization of fat for energy on the body. Utilization of fat on the body. You're not getting any fat off your body that today when you're telling your body to revving up the fat storage hormones to take care of that oil into your system. So because there's no fiber, no bulk, no water, doesn't hold water, and occupies no space in the stomach, it's the perfect food leading to weight gain. So whether it's coconut oil or extra virgin olive oil, or oil from from the other side of the moon, it's not going to matter because it's a processed food that's too calorically rich. And the other factor is, we know that when people switch from oil to nuts and seeds, you're not going to eat both oil and nuts and seeds. You're not going to have sesame oil and sesame seeds because you have too many calories. You can't have room in your appetite, in your daily caloric allotment to have both. And we know nuts and seeds have a huge effect at extending human lifespan. So why would a person use sesame oil over sesame seeds? We make salad dressings with the seeds. We make a sauce, a Thai, curry sauce with the nuts and seeds blended in instead of the oil. And fried foods, when you heat oil, you create rancidity and carcinogenic compounds that increase your risk of cancer. So you're playing with fire when you're playing with oil. When, for example, the Prevamid study showed that they gave them olive oil. The mono and polyunsaturated fats in olive oil are not as bad as butter and other things they were eating, maybe not as bad as the white flour they were eating, whatever it is. They took more oil, less butter, less cheese, and they showed their heart attack rates went down by about 15%. But we're not looking at lower heart attack rates by 15%. We want to remove heart attack risk completely. We want to lower it by 100%. Because in that Prevamid study, when people gave them nuts and seeds, when they told them not to use the oil now, switch to your fat content of nuts and seeds, then cardiovascular deaths went down by 60%, not by 15%. So so we're talking about oil may be better than butter, eggs may be better than donuts, but because eggs are better than donuts doesn't make eggs good, and because oil is better than butter doesn't make the oil good. The Mediterranean diet is not a favorable diet. It's just a little better than the American diet. It doesn't make it favorable. We don't buy a car by comparing it to a junkyard wreck, and what I'm saying here is we have to understand what's the pinnacle of nutritional excellence. Because more than ever before, we need this right now. And we have an unprecedented opportunity to live longer than our ancestors could have eaten, to live longer and healthier than the blue zones could possibly, because they don't have the wide spectrum of foods available in the blue zones. We can do much better than the blue zones. We can eat wild blueberries in the wintertime. We can eat greens all year round. We can eat sprouts and microgreens. We can do all these great things. And putting oil on your food is not a great thing. It's a processed food that does not have a high micronutrient per calorie density. What I'm saying right now is the foundational principle of a nutritarian diet, the pinnacle of lifespan promotion and immune and super immunity, is that to maximally extend human lifespan and slow aging, the only proven methodology, or the most proven methodology, is moderate caloric restriction in the context of micronutrient excellence. Moderate caloric restriction in the context of micronutrient excellence means that we have to eat foods that give us a high micronutrient bang for each caloric buck. We have to eat more foods that give us good nutrients per calorie and remove foods that just give us a lot of calories with no significant micronutrient load. Oil becomes the perfect example of a food that gives you dense calories with no significant micronutrient load. For people asking that question, they completely have been brainwashed and don't understand the most foundational principle of health and longevity. And the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the world's population is this advertising scam that convinced people that olive oil is a health food and contributing to their long life. That is nonsensical.
Thank you. Thank you so much for clearing this out. And yet, some people see that your books contain a little bit of animal products, and I believe there is like a spray of oil on a popcorn. And my understanding is it just there for the people who are transitioning, not that you are really promoting it, but I would like to hear what you have to say about this.
Yes, of course not. I'm not promoting people eat animal products or use oil. I want them not to use those things. But if they're going to use a little bit, otherwise, well, you know what people do is they say, "Oh, I don't want to be on a vegan diet. I like that, so I'm not going to even read the book." You know, so obviously, we want people to say whether you're going to be a vegan diet or use a little bit of animal products, read the book, learn how to be healthy and live a long time. Whether you choose to use a little bit of something you shouldn't use, or whether you do this 98% or 95% or 100%, that's up to you. But don't throw the whole thing out, just do it out of ignorance. Learn the information, then you can judge what you want to do. You know what I'm saying?
And you have so many great books. I have a lot here, and this is not all of them, but one after another, you come up with such a great content in your book. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My latest book is Eat for Life. It's my 12th book, and it became a New York Times bestseller. It was my 7th New York Times bestseller, so really happy about that.
Congratulations.
Because being the latest book, thank you, and being the latest book, it has the most updated references and the most complete amount of references. There's more than 2,000 scientific references, and people can see the evidence becomes overwhelming with thousands of studies supporting this lifestyle. And of course, I want people to, get the most updated and complete knowledge. And I don't want you to do what I say or anybody says. I want you to learn and develop some degree of expertise. Read be facile, learn what the science shows and what the literature shows, so you can have intelligent conversations and you could feel secure in your decisions to lead a healthy and happy life. And obviously, my expectation that is my last book. I finished writing my writing career is, I'm still going to write articles and still going to be working. I'm just not going to, I don't have any plans to write another book at this time. I've written 12 books and I feel like I'm ready to call it to finish my book writing at this point.
I won't be surprised if we're going to see another book later on.
I don't know about
but
that.
Thank you so much. I want to be respectful of everyone's time and especially yours. The Wellness Shots with Jewel, I usually stream them live in the Facebook group Plant Superpowers. Unfortunately, today I had another technical difficulty. We could not connect to Facebook. So this is a recording and it's going to go to all my viewers and all the people out there. I have so many more questions, but I really looking forward to ask you those questions in another segment. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great. Look forward to it. We'll do it again sometime. My